What's up guys, Artem MMA Analysis here, going to be talking about UFC Fight Night, Vera versus Cruz. This is my full card breakdown and my full card predictions. Really excited for the card. We've got a crowd back. It's going to be in San Diego, California, so that should be pretty cool. I really cannot wait for the main event, Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz, a legend versus an up-and-coming prospect, and I think it's going to be such a great card, and as always, I've got my Instagram as well, and I'm making videos for We Want Picks, and I'm still making blog posts for them as well, so if you want to check out the We Want Picks videos, I've got a Dana White's Contender Series video out on their channel now, hyped up for Dana White's Contender Series tomorrow as well. Let's just get straight into the predictions. And we move on to the first fight of the night. We've got Lipsky versus Quesawa, and I'm going to give a little shout out to Blood Money MMA Bets at the start of the video. He's on Quesawa, and he's on Quesawa big time, and he almost convinced me to pick Quesawa. I'm not going to lie, but I'm still going to side with Lipsky. I think there's a lot of red flags in this matchup though, like it was meant to happen last week. Lipsky missed weight, wasn't medically cleared to fight last week, but all of a sudden she's going to be medically cleared to fight this week, The original pick was Lipsky, still siding with Lipsky. I think that she's just a little bit better than Quesawa on the feet. Quesawa is very hittable, we saw that against Ji-Yeon Kim, who outlanded her like 2-1, but Quesawa still won a decision, somehow I guess. But then recently she did lose to Jillian Robertson by submission, but that happens, you know what I mean? Jillian Robertson I do rate quite highly. Maybe I rate Jillian Robertson a little bit too highly, but I do rate her pretty highly. Gina Mazzani doesn't really know what she's doing. Shanna Dobson, I don't know, she's not really fighting the best level of competition in the UFC. And Lipsky, she has been in there with a couple of good girls. Recently beat Mandy Baum. Okay, I take it back. But she beat Mandy Baum, fought Monte De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko, who were pretty good. But yeah, I think Lipsky should win. I feel like she's a little bit more well-rounded. She's got a good Muay Thai base. I think she should be able to land good shots from Quesawa. And if she needs to, she can take the fight to the ground. She does have submission wins at her record, so I feel like maybe there's an opportunity for that to happen. But I'm going to pick Lipsky by decision. Hopefully what happens is I pick her to win by decision, and then all of a sudden we get a first round finish out of nowhere like we did last week. But I'm going to pick Lipsky. I'm picking her by decision. I think she's just got a little bit more ways to win. She's got it on the feet in my opinion. I think she's got the grappling advantage as well. Quesawa, she does hit pretty hard. She does land some pretty good shots, and she's got a very good opportunity in this fight, fighting Lipsky, who wasn't medically cleared last week as I said. All of a sudden is. We'll get into that later with the Josh Quinlan fight as well. But yeah, I'm picking Lipsky. Blood Money MMA Bets almost changed my mind, but I'm going to stick to Lipsky, and we'll see how that plays out for me. And we move on to the next fight. We've got Jason Witt versus Josh Quinlan, and this fight kind of annoys me that it's still being made. Shout out to Jason Witt, but Josh Quinlan, he won on Dana White's Contender Series. They got overturned because he was blatantly on roids. And then he was meant to fight last weekend, and that got shifted to this week because what happened was USADA picked up something in his urine sample. The Nevada Athletic Commission wasn't going to let him fight in Nevada, but the UFC's like, oh, you can be on roids, we've got no problems with that. We've got a dominant champion blatantly on steroids, and so yeah, they're letting Josh Quinlan fight just in a different state. It's just so frustrating, to be honest. So Quinlan is roided to the gills. He's a power puncher anyway. He lands with a lot of heat. Jason Witt, he's got not really the greatest chin whatsoever. He was beating Phil Rowe with his wrestling before he got knocked out. He did beat Brian Barberena, but Brian Barberena is not a guy that's going to knock you out with one punch power. He's going to land a lot of combinations and kind of let it build up. I feel like Robbie Lawler's a pretty good example of that fight anyway. Lost to Matt Simmelsberger in 20 seconds by KO. Lost by KO to Kashi Sato in the first round, I believe that was. Josh Quinlan's got KO power. Jason Witt has been knocked out quite a bit recently as well, and just in general, we can't really take the best shots, which is unfortunate for him. But I feel like maybe Witt's got a path to victory. He can wrestle with Quinlan, but Quinlan is blatantly on roids. We know this. So yeah, I think Quinlan's got the advantage there. He's got a physicality advantage because he's cheating. So give me Quinlan by KO, and I think he's going to get it done in the first round. And we move on to the next fight. We've got Yusuf Zalal taking on Damon Blackshear, and this is a fight which I'm still battling with, man, because I really want Yusuf Zalal to win. I really like Yusuf Zalal. If you guys don't know me, I really like it when guys fight often, and Yusuf Zalal is a guy that fights often. He fought 5 times in the space of 1 year, and a couple of wins, but he did go on a bit of a losing streak in that time, and he's only 25, 26 years old. coming up, but he's fighting Damon Blackshear, making his debut. Damon Blackshear did take the fight on about 2 weeks' notice, so he is somewhat short notice of a fight here. I just like Damon Blackshear, man. I know he's a very, very slight underdog. If not, it's a pick'em's odd. I just realised I'm not even in the middle of my face cam, but Damon Blackshear, you can get him at about plus 110, best value. Otherwise, you get him minus 110 either way, minus 120 either way as well, but yeah, Damon Blackshear, very, very slight underdog. I am going to side with him here. And the main reason is I do like Damon Blackshear's grappling. I do like the finishing ability that he does have on the ground. I know that this is also Yusuf Zalal's last chance. You know, he went on a 3-fight losing streak, and I believe he was told, we're going to give you one more fight. So he's taken 1 year off. He's improving his fighting. It says on Tapology he's fighting out of Factory X Muay Thai. Not too sure if that's accurate now, 1 year later, but Zalal is obviously going to be making a lot of improvements. He's 26 years old. He's taken 1 year off. He's got a very good chance to win this fight as well. He's fighting down at a new weight class, down at bantamweight. But Damon Blackshear, you know, he's taking the fight on a couple weeks' notice, and he's fought pretty good guys on the regional scene. You know, not the greatest guys in the world, but he took on Danny Sabatello, who is potentially gonna go on to become a Bellator champion. If not, he's in like the top 5 of Bellator rankings right now, I believe. And then he beat a guy that was 5-2, 5-1, undefeated 5-0, and he beat Josh Smith, who was 11-7 at the time. And I like the activity as well. You know, he's fought 5 times in about a year and a half. He's got very good finishing ability on the ground. On the feet, Zalal probably is a little bit better, and Zalal does have great grappling himself, but I think the guy with the finishing ability on the ground is Blackshear. He's got a few submission wins in his career, and I think Zalal, you know, he's definitely got the opportunity here to survive the first round, maybe lose the first round and come back in the next 2, but I think Damon Blackshear is going to end up locking something up here. You know, it's Zalal's first fight in about a year, coming down to a new weight class. Blackshear's going to be hungry. You know, he's 28 years old. If he's going to make something happen and still be in that prospect, quote-unquote, age, he's got a couple of years to do it, and what better time than to do it now? So, I'm picking Blackshear by submission or even a decision, but I'm going to side with Blackshear submission. He loves good grappling. He's a good grappler. You know, we have seen him taken down and held down in the past by Danny Sabatello, but Danny Sabatello is like an uber prospect, you know. Damon Blackshear does have a really bad loss to Chris Mutino on his record as well, which in hindsight has not aged very well as well. And he's lost to a couple of other guys in the UFC, but the guys that he's lost to are really good. So, you know, he's not really too much shame in the 4 losses on his record. I think Blackshear gets it done, and I'm going to be picking him to win. Not super confident, but he is an underdog pick, and I do like that. And I also like the fact that it's his debut, and I'm really excited to see it. But hopefully Zalal wins. A fighter I like to watch, a fighter I like to see. He fights very often. Hopefully for Zalal, maybe he can get the win and stay in the UFC. But if not, he's only 26 years old. He's going to come back, no doubt in my mind. So give me Damon Blackshear to win his UFC debut over a pretty tough opponent in Yusuf Zalal. And now we've got Angela Hill taking on Lupita Goudanis. I have a feeling this fight was scheduled for like a few months away, and it was brought forward a couple of months or something like that to kind of add to the card, and that kind of favours Lupita Goudanis in my opinion. She's a girl that's been taking a lot of short notice fights on a record. I know Angela Overkill Hill isn't a stranger taking short notice fights either, but Lupita Goudanis has been taking a lot of short notice opponents. You know, I believe she fought Silvana Gomez-Suarez on a full camp, but then a week later she fought Luana Carolina, and then about a month later she fought Loma Lookboonmee, and then she took a bit of time off for Ariana Khanov. But that's only 2 months ago. Now she's getting straight back into it, fighting Angela Hill, a girl that is probably going to put her up into the rankings here at strawweight. You know, Angela Hill, I'm not too sure if she's ranked now, but she's definitely been ranked somewhat highly in the past. But Angela Hill's 37 years old, 38 years old at women's strawweight, and that's not really the greatest sign in the world either. But what I have kind of thought about Angela Hill, what I have noticed is that she is still somewhat one-dimensional. You know, like she can hang around in the grappling and not get submitted, but she's really primarily a kickboxer and kind of always has been. I think she didn't start kickboxing until very late in her life when she was trying to lose weight. But what I do like about Angela Hill is, where is it in her record? She fought Verna Jandarova just most recently, actually, and didn't get submitted. You know, Verna Jandarova does have a lot of submission wins on her record. She's got a split decision loss to Amanda Lemos, who probably is one of the better fighters in the 115-pound division right now. Tisha Torres lost as well. Like, the girls that she's losing to are pretty elite, but her one win in the last 2 years is against Ashley Yoder. and I don't think Ashley Yoda's even in the UFC anymore. She also has a win over Ariana Canelossi, who was Lupita Godinez's most recent win, but I think Lupita Godinez is going to win this one. She's so much more well-rounded, and she's got pretty good kickboxing herself. She's a really good grappler. I mean, she just dominated Ariana Canelossi on the ground. Canelosi's a very strong girl. Look at her biceps to start with. And Lupita Godinez made it look pretty easy. She muscled her around. She controlled the position. She won at a very lopsided decision in the grappling over her. And I actually do think we're going to see potentially a submission win for Lupita Godinez here. I think her grappling pressure might be a little bit too much. I think Angela Hill, she's a good kickboxer, but at this point she's about 38 years old. She's lost 3 in a row against 3 pretty good girls, to be fair, but I think it's about time that maybe Angela Hill thinks about hanging up the gloves. You know, she's 38 years old at strawweight. She's getting pretty old, and Lupita Godinez and other girls that are just up and coming are going to use her name and her somewhat one-dimensionality to build her record. So I'm going to pick Lupita Godinez. I'm going to pick her by decision or submission. This is not a out there pick at all. Lupita Godinez is like minus 360 or something on the betting odds. So yeah, not like a hot take or anything, but give me Lupita Godinez by submission or decision. I'm also actually leaning that submission side. I know Angela Hill's a hard girl to submit, but she has been submitted before, and I think she's just getting older. She's taking more and more damage. I think Lupita Godinez can capitalize that, and on short notice as well. So give me her to win. And we move on to Ode Osborne versus Tyson Nam. Ode Osborne in this situation, the up-and-coming prospect. He's about 31 years old now at 125, so if he wants to make a top 15 run happen, it's got to be now, and I think that he's going to get the job done. And I've been thinking about it, you know, Tyson Nam's a very hard guy to put away, but I'm picking Ode Osborne to win by knockout on this one. I know it's flyweight, I know not the most knockouts in the world happen, but Tyson Nam is 38 years old, almost 39 years old. But before we start talking about the fight, I do want to remind you, if you guys don't know, Tyson Nam, way back in the day in 2012, knocked out Eduardo Dantas as a huge underdog, massive underdog. Eduardo Dantas at the time was Bellator's champion, coming for like a one-off fight in Shuto, got knocked out by Tyson Nam, and then carried on just winning in Bellator, which is absolute madness. That Tyson Nam at one point knocked out the Bellator champion. That's a little bit of a throwback for you guys if you guys don't know. But both guys are still fighting. Both guys are still doing pretty good things. You know, Tyson Nam's in the UFC. Eduardo Dantas is like 23-7, fighting on regional scenes right now. But just in case you guys don't know, Tyson Nam at one point, not even signed to Bellator, knocked out the Bellator champion, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, so that happened. But yeah, I think in Ode Osborne, very fast hands. He is somewhat well-rounded, but he's more of a striker in my opinion. He's a good striker. Tyson Nam's a very good striker as well, and he was recently on like a little 2-fight win streak over Goudanis and Jerome Rivera. But we all know that Jerome Rivera is potentially the worst guy to ever fight in the UFC. Where is it? Ode Osborne knocked out Jerome Rivera, and then he lost to Manel Kape, but Manel Kape's a pretty super prospect right now. He's also on roids as well. If you guys don't know that situation, just look at his Tapology page and look at the reason why his last fight was removed. He beat CJ Vergara, which has somewhat aged well, even though I don't rate CJ too highly. And he also knocked out Goudanis himself. But I'm picking Ode Osborne. I think he's going to knock out Tyson Nam. I think at this point, you know, he hasn't fought for a year and a half. And even then, I know he went to a split decision with Matt Schnell, but we're talking about a 39-year-old flyweight just in general. That's pretty old for this weight class, you know. And I feel like at some point, you know, I think Ode Osborne's going to get it done. I think he's going to win by KO. A lot of people picking decision. That was my original pick, but the more I think about it, the more I look into it, I am starting to think that we do see Ode Osborne win by KO in this matchup. So I'm going to be picking Ode Osborne by KO. If Nam throws something crazy and gets a KO, I feel like that would be pretty cool, but I've got to go with Ode Osborne here. He's a really good boxer. He's got really fast hands as well. He's very quick, so I like Ode Osborne. I think he's actually going to be a pretty good prospect, even though at one point it wasn't looking too good for his UFC career. He went 1-2 in his first 3 fights, and the blueprint to beat Ode Osborne has been laid out, to be fair, by Brian Kelleher, but no one's been able to utilise that yet. So yeah, give me Ode Osborne to win by KO. And this is the fight where I lose all reputation as a reputable MMA picker. I'm picking Charlie Ontiveros, man. As soon as this matchup was made, I genuinely thought to myself, This is an opportunity for Ontiveros to get a win. Now, who's the better striker in the matchup? Gabriel Benitez. Who's the better grappler in the matchup? Gabriel Benitez. But you've got to kind of look at something like this, you know. Charlie Ontiveros is a crazy fighter, you know, and he throws spinning kicks, he throws spinning back fists, he throws X kicks, he throws everything, and he does have power on the hands. I know recently he lost to Steve Garcia, which is a pretty terrible look. I am pretty aware of that, but he knocked Steve Garcia down twice in the first round, you know, and if he just had a little bit better grappling or a little bit better fight IQ, he probably would have won that fight by knockout. And he's taking on Gabriel Benitez, who I know is a great fighter, I know he's a good fighter, I know he does have a win over Justin James, but at that point he wasn't UFC level. Justin James, I think, got one crazy KO and then went on a losing streak and lost. He had a pretty good fight with Billy Quarantillo, but he got knocked out by David Onama about 5 months ago, and he's been knocked out again by Sadiq Youssef. He's been knocked out 4 times in his career. At 145, he missed weight in his last one. Now he's moving up to 155, and the guy that they're giving him is 6'2" with a 76-inch reach. They're giving him a massive 155er, and I'm very well aware that Charlie Ontiveros, he's lost against some not great competition in his career, and he's beaten some not great competition in his career, but there were glimmers of hope in the Steve Garcia fight. Ontiveros does have KO power, and even up 2 weight classes. I know that was a terrible, a very unfortunate finish, but he gets Kevin Holland. But even at one point, he had Kevin Holland somewhat hurt, which is so crazy. But Ontiveros is such an exciting fighter. I know that he's going to get cut if he loses this one. I think everyone knows that. You know, he only really is in the UFC because he took on Kevin Holland up 2 weight classes on short notice, but he's got the opportunity to beat Gabriel Benitez, and I kind of like it. I kind of like picking the biggest favourite on the card. I don't think I've ever done that before. The biggest underdog on the card, so I don't think I've ever done that before. Unless Kai Kara France was like some crazy underdog against Askar Askarov, and I picked him to win. But I'm picking Charlie Ontiveros. I know, like, a lot of people might watch this and think, like, you're such an idiot, dude. And I'm pretty aware that it could be a dumb pick, but I think there's actually an opportunity here, because Gabriel Benitez is going to be so much smaller, a former featherweight. He's 5'8" compared to Charlie Ontiveros, who's 6'2", 76-inch reach. If Benitez is able to utilize his grappling and get Charlie Ontiveros down, it won't be a very difficult fight for Benitez. But if Ontiveros is able to hurt Benitez early on the feet, then I think he's going to have a lot of success, and I'm going to trust in that. You know, he's going to use his size advantage. He's going to use like the crazy stuff that he throws. Hopefully he doesn't throw too many spinning things and then gets off balance and taken down. But I think Charlie Ontiveros by KO is potentially a pick. You know, Benitez has been knocked out 4 times at featherweight. You know, he's on a somewhat of a slide. Ontiveros, you know, you could say the same thing. Not the most impressive record in the world, not the most impressive guys he's beaten and lost to, but I've got to do it, man. I've got to pick. I've got to pick Ontiveros. I know it's such a crazy pick. I know it's potentially a dumb one, but he's the biggest underdog on the card. He's got an opportunity to win by KO, and I think I'm gonna jump on that. You know, I think I'm gonna take that pick. I think I'm gonna be picking Ontiveros to win. Call me crazy. Call me whatever you want. I'm picking Ontiveros, and I'm picking him by KO. Benitez has been knocked out 4 times in his career. I believe he's been submitted twice as well. He's been finished 6 times out of 10 losses. Ontiveros does have KO power. I know he's only got like 4 KO wins out of 11 wins on his record, but we saw him knock down Steve Garcia, who doesn't have the greatest chin at 155. Benitez potentially doesn't have the greatest chin at 145. Ontiveros is the pick. Need I say more? Potentially a dumb one. I'm pretty self-aware with that one, but I'm going to pick him. I'm picking him anyway. We move on to Lucas Brzezky versus Martin Boudou, and Lucas Brzezky, he's on the sauce. He's a saucer, you know. He had his fight over Dylan Potter overturned because he was on the sauce. But what I don't really like about that fight is Dylan Potter took that fight on short notice, and then it was rescheduled for a few weeks later. So Dylan Potter took the fight on, let's say, 1 month's notice or so, as a guy that was 10-5 coming in. And it took Lucas Brzezky 3 rounds to finish him, and he didn't look amazing. He didn't look as good on Dana White's Contender Series as he did on his regional scene, and it's probably because he was sourcing a lot more on the regional scene than he was on Dana White's Contender Series. But yeah, Brzezky's potentially a pretty good fighter, but he's pretty small for 265 as well. I know a few people picking Boudou have been saying that Brzezky is a very small heavyweight, and he is. Boudou is the same height, but he's a much bigger guy. You know, he weighed in at 264 pounds. He potentially even is cutting weight to make the 265-pound limit, and I picked him to beat Chris Barnett by decision. He won by technical decision, so that's a win in my books. But what Boudou really does is he just clinches you. It's kind of all he does. He uses the clinch game. He throws a lot of knees. He does dirty box a little bit. He boxes a little bit in the short range. But what he mostly likes to do is he likes to clinch you and wear on you and really gas you out. And then towards the end of the fight, when you are tired, he can get a knockout and get a finish. Like, he did knock out Lorenzo Hood. I think he actually knocked him out in like the first or the second round. But for the most part, what he's doing to guys is he is using the clinch game, potentially even grappling if he needs to, but he just uses the clinch a lot, and that's what he did against, I forgot his name already, Chris Barnett. If you watch him fight Chris Barnett, that is how Boudou fights. That's literally Boudou's fighting blueprint. He uses the clinch, he closes the gap, and that's what he's going to do for Brzezky, a much smaller guy. He's probably not as strong as Boudou either, so I think Boudou is just going to outmuscle him in the clinch. And we're on him, get a decision win, or maybe if Brzezky gasses out from all of the pressure Boudou is putting on him, maybe you can get a finish there. But I'm going to be going with Boudou decision again. I picked him to win by decision against Chris Barnett. He won by decision against Chris Barnett. So yeah, let me side with Boudou by decision again. That's kind of all I've got. I know this is like a 2-minute breakdown, but that's all I've really got. You know, Brzezky's a pretty good striker. He does have power on the hands. Boudou does too, but he does, as I said, he does clinch a lot, and it's kind of his game plan. So I'll move on to the next one before I ramble too much. In the next one, we've got Yasmine at Uruguay taking on a Yasmine Lasindo, and quite unanimously, everyone seems to have kind of agreed that there's not a lot of footage on these girls, there's not a lot to know. But I'm picking Yasmine Uruguay. I think she's a pretty good fighter. She recently defeated Stephanie Frosto, who made it to Dana White's Contender Series. You know, I don't know why, but she did. And yeah, so she was in like a three fight tournament. I don't know why that says 9 months, but she's in a 3-fight tournament. Beat 2 girls by first round KO. I believe she defeated Frosto by decision and won that tournament. Hasn't fought since. She was signed to the UFC, I want to say, around 6 months ago. She was signed. It wasn't like a big deal, like it wasn't posted on the UFC page or anything like that. But yeah, people in the know knew that Uruguay was signed to the UFC, and she had a belt scheduled for someone else. And now we've got Yasmine Lasindo, a 20-year-old prospect. Man, that's crazy. She's so young, who is stepping in now on somewhat short notice. And what we could see, we genuinely could see a big underdog upset, because there's not a lot of information out there of either of these girls. Lasindo, she does seem to be a pretty good grappler, but she does have TKO wins in her record as well. And the girls, that Lasindo has been fighting is not that great. To be honest, like, she fought a girl that's 8-3, which is awesome. 1-2 though, 2-1, and then 9-3, which is great, and then 0-0. You know, like, it's going up and down. But Yasmine Uruguay was meant to fight Estela Nunez. That would have been like an easy layup for Lasindo. I'm not gonna lie, Nunez just has not impressed me whatsoever at all in her UFC run. But yeah, I'm picking Yasmine Uruguay to win. She's a better striker in my opinion. She's got good grappling. I feel like Yasmine Lasindo is more of a grappler, and at only 20 years of age, being signed to the UFC at 20 years of age, I feel like that's like a little bit of an underrated achievement. I feel like not a lot of people are really mentioning that. That's insane. Like, I'm 20 years old. What have I done? You know? Yeah, what have I done actually at 20 years old? I'm studying engineering at university. I guess that counts. So yeah, Yasmine Uruguay's the pick. She's a really good striker. She's only 23 years old herself. She's undefeated. Pretty good to pick an undefeated girl. Yeah, there's not a lot of information out there on either of these girls, but Uruguay's a really good striker. She's got KO power as well. I'll pick Uruguay to win by decision. I don't know if Lasindo is going to be able to handle her power, but I'll pick Uruguay to win by decision. Maybe Lasindo can make something happen, but yeah, give me Uruguay to win. Yasmine Uruguay on the left, that is, in case you're confused by the names. And as we move up the card, we've got Nina Nunez taking on Cynthia Calvillo. And as I said in my early predictions, Nina Nunez, good striker, not that great at grappling. Cynthia Calvillo, good grappler, not that great at striking. I'm picking Cynthia Calvillo, but it has got to be something to be said. She has taken a bit of damage in her last couple of matchups. You know, she got TKO'd by Jessica Andrade, and then she fought 2 weeks later and fought Andrea Lee. and yeah, got stopped in the corner, which I think is pretty fair. But yeah, she took two KO losses back to back, but she's taking 8 months off. Hopefully she can come back here. But I do remember Cynthia Calvillo's run. When she got signed to the UFC, this was around the time when she was Cody Garbrandt's Cody Garbrandt's training partners, and when Cody Garbrandt was also on top as well. And she got signed to the UFC really early on in her career. She beat Amanda Cooper, and then she beat Pearl Gonzalez, and then she went on a little bit of a run, all the way out to Carla Esparza. And since then she went on another run, but I do remember this time around 2017 when Cynthia Calvillo was a super hyped up prospect, because if you guys don't know, I did start watching MMA around early to mid 2016, and Cody Garbrandt was one of the first guys who I really followed, and I believe he won the belt late 2016, and Cynthia Calvillo made her debut early 2017. So yeah, that's kind of how I've got all that matched up, but yeah, I'm picking Cynthia Calvillo. She's still a pretty good fighter in my eyes. I know she's not the same as she was a couple of years ago, and she's on a little bit of a losing streak, which is a shame, because at one point she did look like she was going to be a pretty good prospect before she lost to Caitlin Chukagian. But I'm still siding with Cynthia Calvillo. I think she's going to take Nina Nunez now and then submit her. I know Mackenzie Duran made it look pretty easy on the ground against Nina Nunez, but Nina Nunez does have good striking, but at this point she's about 37 years old. She's had a child as well. I feel like maybe her priorities in life aren't necessarily fighting. It's more probably being the mother to her and Amanda Nunez's daughter, I believe. So, yeah, give me Cynthia Calvillo. I think she's more committed to the game right now, and I think she gets on her winning ways back. Calvillo by submission is the pick. Nunez does have good striking, she does, but I don't think she's going to defend the takedowns or the grappling of Calvillo. So give me her to win. Voice crack. Love it. By submission. Maybe a decision, but I do think that over the course of 3 rounds, Calvillo is going to get a submission. And now we've got Devin Clark taking on Azamat Murzakanov, and a lot of people are really, really sold on Azamat Murzakanov, and I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm picking Azamat Murzakanov, but I'm not super sold on him. I was really sold on him before he fought tough on Nchukwi, and at that time I did have money on him as well in a parlay, and I was freaking out. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was all busted. But then he come out and KO tough one in the 3rd round, but he wasn't looking too good in the first 2 rounds. But tough on Nchukwi is such a hit or miss fighter. Sometimes he shows up and looks really good. Sometimes he gets knocked out in the 1st round by Carlos Ulberg, but hey man, it is what it is. I guess he looks really good against Mateusz Shefnel on Dana White's Contender Series, but that's Mateusz Shefnel, you know what I mean? I know he's in the PFL playoffs somehow, but he's chinny, man. He's been knocked out like 5 times, I think, in his career or something crazy like that. But yeah, Azamat Murzakanov is a good striker. He really is, and he's got good sambo background as well. Went over Ion Kutalaba in sambo. But yeah, Devin Clark recently beat William Knight, who in heavyweight as well. Because William Knight, I think, like missed weight crazy in his last fight, and then they decided to fight at heavyweight or something like that, and he won, which was probably good for Devin Clark, because fighting at heavyweight benefited William Knight the most. But he lost to Ion Kutalaba, he lost to Anthony Smith. Does have a good win over Lenzo Minifield, who was undefeated at the time, but I do think Azamat Murzakanov got the good striking advantage. I think Devin Clark might be looking to wrestle here. Azamat Murzakanov just a really good striker. I think he's probably going to strike with Clark. Maybe he gets a KO himself. I mean, I did pick William Knight to beat Devin Clark, I will admit. Mainly just because it was at heavyweight. But yeah, give me Murzakanov. I'm going to pick him to win by KO as well. He's a very elusive striker, very fast with KO power. So yeah, I'm going to pick Murzakanov to win by KO in this matchup here. Not that confident though. Devin Clark could be a pretty good underdog because he does have a wrestling background. He could look to wrestle with Murzakanov. We'll see if Murzakanov gets tested here. Not a guy I would throw in like a parlay personally against Devin Clark, but we'll see what happens, eh? And now we move on to Gerald Meshach versus Bruno Silva, and Bruno Silva is the MMA Guru's lock of the week. I'm siding with the MMA Guru on this one. I am picking Bruno Silva. But, oh my god, this could become the biggest meme ever, because he said that Jared Vandera was his lock of the week over Chase Sherman. Imagine if Gerald Meshach wins. Man, MMA Guru, man, he potentially could get memed from this one, but I side with him on this one. And Bruno Silva, I think he's going to win the fight. You know, he's a really good striker, really powerful striker as well. And he does have good wrestling defense, which is what Gerald Meshach does tend to lack, as a good wrestling offense to get his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu going. And we saw Bruno Silva defend a lot of takedowns against Andrew Sanchez. And then he knocked out a really good striker, or a pretty decent striker, in Jordan Wright. Lost to Alex Bahia in a pretty competitive fight. You know, Bruno Silva did bring the fight to Alex Bahia on the feet, and it was pretty good. He also got takedowns himself as well, which is a pretty smart game plan if you're fighting Alex Bahia, you know. But Gerald Meshach, he's okay, you know, like he seems to be a pretty good litmus test. Like he fought Khamzat Chimaev, got knocked out pretty early there, beat Bartosz Verbinski, beat Makhmud Muradov when Makhmud Muradov was on like a 14 fight win streak, beat Dustin Stoltzfus, and then he beat lost to Krzysztof Jotko, sorry, and he didn't look that great against Krzysztof Jotko, in my opinion. And I think Bruno Silva is just so much better of a striker than Gerald Meshach. He's going to find the KO here. I know that everyone started to think that Meshach was pretty chinny after the loss to Khamzat Chimaev, but I think if Khamzat Chimaev's able to put you out that quickly, then I think Bruno Silva probably can do something similar. I think Bruno Silva will be able to win with a knockout. And this one here, he's got like 19 knockouts on his record, something crazy like that. Bruno Silva is a very good striker, very powerful striker as well. Meshach's path to victory is definitely in the jiu-jitsu, but he's got to use the wrestling to get there. And Bruno Silva in the past has showed really good takedown defense, and it's no doubt something that he's going to keep on working on. And I think if Bruno Silva gets a big win here, I think he potentially could be eligible for a top 15 opponent. Bruno Silva versus Chris Curtis, potentially. I don't know if Curtis is ranked, but I'm sure he probably will be. Yeah, I genuinely do believe that Bruno Silva should be deserving of a top 15 opponent. You know, he had a pretty competitive fight with Alex Bahia, who's going to be fighting for a title in his last fight. So, yeah, give me Bruno Silva to win by KO, and I'm pretty confident with this one. Meshach does have chance to lock up a sub. Silva does have like 4-5 submission losses off the top of my head, which is a big red flag, but that's the past, you know what I mean? It's a couple of years ago since he got subbed, and I think he's been working on it. So give me Silva by KO over Meshach here, who's just got not as good striking as Silva. Potentially, I'm not too sure about that, but we know Silva can crack, and he cracks, man, when he lands. So give me Silva by KO. He's a very exciting fighter too, so definitely a guy you want to see in the rankings at one point, so hopefully he can make it there. And now in the co-main event, David Onama versus Nate Landwehr. This is a pretty short notice replacement. David Onama stepping up for short notice again in the UFC. He's no stranger to short notice fights. His opponent, Garrett Armfield, took the fight on short notice in his last fight about a month ago. He made his UFC debut on short notice against Mason Jones and put up a very exciting fight. And Nate Landwehr, is this guy ever in boring fights? This guy's in such exciting fights, and I'm gonna reference him again. The MMA Guru talked about Nate Landwehr's like 2014 highlight video, which is absolutely hilarious to watch because he's just kind of yelling absolute nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, he's just yelling Nate the Train like all the time. And he went on a really good run in M1 Challenge before he did get knocked out by Herbert Burns, and since then he just hasn't really picked up like a win streak in the UFC. But Nate the Train's a very exciting fighter. I picked Ludovic Klein to beat him, and he looks really good over Ludovic Klein, to be honest. And Ludovic Klein is now doing big things at 155, which is very interesting. But yeah, Nate Landwehr, he used to have dreads back in the day, which is quite hilarious. Bring back the dreads, Nate. Bring back the dreads. And it's also worth noting this fight is going to be in front of a big crowd. David Onama, I don't believe, has fought in front of a big crowd before. Nate Landwehr has. And Nate Landwehr is a very crowd-friendly fighter. You know, he's crazy. He yells stuff. He's probably going to yell stuff during the fight. And he's just an exciting fighter in general. So maybe we say Nate Landwehr absolutely thrive off the crowd, but if he needs to, Nate Landwehr can work takedowns and use some grappling from there. But David Onama, I think he's the better fighter on the stand-up, but I do believe that this fight is going to take place on the feet. Onama as well, taking a lot of short notice fights, I do respect that. Fighting often, he's fought 5 times in a year and a half now, which is pretty crazy. 3 times in 9 months for the UFC as well, which I do love to see. I love it when fighters fight often, and they're my favourite kind of fighters, you know, so I like David Onama here. I'm picking him to win, not just because I like him, but I am picking him to win. I think he's going to win a striking battle here. And Nate Landwehr got knocked out by Herbert Burns. He got knocked out by Julian Erosa. David Onama cracked Gabriel Benitez, and then he submitted Garrett Armfield. But I think that David Onama on the feet is going to potentially find a KO over Nate Landwehr. It's a shame, but as long as it lasts, Nate Landwehr is going to be very exciting. He's going to be in the fight. The crowd's going to be going crazy. Probably for both guys. I think David Onama probably is somewhat of a big name right now, but Nate Landwehr thrives off the crowd, and I cannot wait to watch it. But I think that David Onama finds the KO here. I'm going to pick him by KO. And everyone else has too. Interesting. I thought a lot of people would be on Onama decision. But Onama by KO is a very popular pick, and I'm going to agree. I'm going to be picking David Onama to win by KO over Nate the Train. And in the main event, we've got Marlon Vera versus Dominic Cruz. And believe it or not, guys, believe it or not, I'm picking Dominic Cruz to win this fight by decision. Yeah, I know a lot of people are referencing Marlon Vera's last fight over Rob Font, but I feel like I'm kind of looking at it in a somewhat different lens, you know. So Rob Font, he was having a lot of success with Marlon Vera before he started getting dropped. And when Marlon Vera started dropping Rob Font, that's when he started winning the fight. But you got to remember, Rob Font was having a lot of success with Marlon Vera. He was actually outlanding him, I believe, in most of the rounds. But Marlon Vera was making a big comeback towards the end, getting knockdowns and scoring rounds that way. But I don't forget, you know, I don't forget that Rob Font's success was there in that fight, even though Marlon Vera did beat him up really badly, not gonna lie. But he had success. Frankie Edgar also 8 months ago was having success. I believe on the judges' scorecard it was 1-1. I think even on one judge's scorecard it was potentially 2-0 Frankie Edgar before he got that KO. So Frankie Edgar himself was having success. David Grant's a really good striker. That's a good win to have on your record. Lost to Jose Aldo, you know, that happens. Aldo is Aldo. I believe that might have been a 3-round fight as well, which is that's a mythical fighter. 3-round Aldo is a mythical fighter. And Sean O'Malley, yeah, what can I say about Sean O'Malley? That's a really good win to have. I actually picked Marlon Vera to beat Sean O'Malley, potentially one of the best picks I've ever made in my record. You know, unfortunately I didn't have a YouTube channel at the time. You're just going to have to trust me. I did pick Marlon Vera to win, and I did place a bet on Marlon Vera to beat O'Malley, and he did. But yeah, Marlon Vera, no joke. But Dominic Cruz, the greatest bantamweight of all time, in my opinion. He had a legendary rivalry with Uriah Faber. The name finally comes to my mind. And he's 17-0 in non-title fights. You know, so those 3 losses all come from title fights such as Cody Garbrandt, and I believe he fought Henry Cejudo as well in a comeback, and he got knocked out pretty early on in the fight. But yeah, you know, he made a comeback. He's 37 years old. There's a lot of red flags with Dominic Cruz, and I know he didn't look incredible against Pedro Munoz. Munoz was landing really good shots on Cruz. He beat Casey Kenny pretty clearly, in my opinion. I don't think that was too close of a fight. I know it was a split decision, but that's a weird decision to have. But yeah, I'm going to be picking Dominic Cruz. He's also got wrestling in the back pocket. I know Marlon Vera has a lot of submission wins, but recently he has been utilising a lot of striking. Marlon Vera really well-rounded. Dominic Cruz really well-rounded, but I just like the fact that Rob Font was having success with Vera on the feet, and I think that Dominic Cruz is going to find a lot of success with on the feet as well. And I think he's just going to have the movement to not get knocked down like Rob Font was, you know what I mean? And another thing that I do have to say is a lot of people reference this Cody Garbrandt fight, but if you look at the stats, Dominic Cruz outlanded Cody Garbrandt in all 5 of those rounds. If it wasn't for the knockdowns, potentially Dominic Cruz would have gotten the nod. So yeah, that's a tough one as well. But yeah, I'm on an island here. Everyone's picking Marlon Vera. I totally understand why. I think it's because a lot of people like Vera. A lot of people want him to be the prospect. A lot of people want to see him win. I want to see him win. He's the younger guy. You know, I'm always kind of that person where it's like, oh, you know, we want to see the younger guys at the top, not the older guys. But Cruz, man, he's a legend. He really is. And I know there's so many red flags. He's so injury prone. Marlon Vera throws a lot of leg kicks. Cruz has had a lot of leg injuries in his career. His footwork's not the same like it was years ago, but Cruz is the man, you know. If he needs to, he can grapple. If he needs to, he can wrestle. So yeah, I'm going to be picking Dominic Cruz as a pretty sizable underdog. You can get him plus 200, I believe, in some bookies. So money coming on Vera big time. I've seen a lot of parlays with Marlon Vera in it. I don't know how I feel about parlaying Vera just because I am picking Cruz. You know, I do believe he's got a path to victory on the feet. He's got a path to victory maybe even in the wrestling as well if he can hold Marlon Vera down and not get submitted for a few rounds. So I'm picking Cruz by decision, you know, and yeah, pretty not a common pick at all. But I feel like this is one of those picks, you know, where you can't like disrespect it. I feel like when you see someone pick Dominic Cruz over Marlon Vera, you've just be like, oh yeah, I respect that, even if you disagree. I feel like it's a pretty respectful pick. You know what I mean? So yeah, give me Dominic Cruz, underdog pick. I like him in general, you know. I think he's actually a great fighter, great commentator as well, very underrated commentator. But yeah, I think Cruz comes back, man. I think he comes back in a big way. And praying, guys. We see Dominic Cruz fight Jose Aldo before they retire. Please let that happen. Please, I will pick Aldo in that matchup, but please let Aldo versus Cruz be a thing. I can't believe they didn't make that matchup and they made Vera versus Cruz and Dvalishvili versus Aldo. But if Cruz wins this one and Aldo wins his fight over Marab, maybe title eliminator, Cruz versus Aldo, like that would be legendary. But yeah, I've rambled for too much here. Let's move on. Thank you guys so much for watching the videos. Thank you guys so much for all the subscribers I've been getting recently. I really appreciate it. As always, I am making videos for We Want Picks. I do have an Instagram. It is over there in the team fight. Anyway, point is see you in the next one. Really appreciate it. Next video will probably be Dana White's Contender Series for week 4. Hyped up for that card. Hyped up for the card tomorrow as well. Let's get into it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.